full of algae already.
I know.
This guy's ruining everything.
They have a talk up there covering really heavy further tarnishing, desecrating the legacy of President Kennedy because Donald Trump is a big baby and angry that his name was taken off the facade after he's the one who added it.
Yeah, really, why did he add it?
Talking about
What gave him the right to add it?
that UFC fight on the White House lawn that took a lot of criticism that we now learn was all subsidized by all of us. $60 million, 7 agencies, also the city of Washington having to pay for all kinds of security concerns. UFC making a fortune, Paramount making a fortune. All of it clearly an example of corporations using government buildings, using a government site to promote something, or for Donald Trump further. 866-99 Sirius is our number. 866-997-4740. Well, did you hear Marco Rubio defended it by comparing it to the moon landing? President Kennedy announced that we were going to put a man on the moon and return him safely to the Earth. Donald Trump, that was possible. We said it. We already found it on everyone else there and no one else. And at some level, that's what this whole company, what UFC has been. What? Are you kidding me? The moon landing? I do not love Chris Christie, okay, but he responded to how ludicrous this was, but also an example of how you have to kiss Donald Trump's ugly, horrible ass.
You know, I obviously have been witness to a lot of interesting things that Marco Rubio has said over the decade or so. And you know, this is
That feeling when you check your bank account and your paycheck's days away. And of course, your
calendar's
calendar's
all. When you get kind of microphone, you gotta figure out a way to kiss his behind. And so here he is, talking on UFC being comparable to landing a man on the moon. At some level, he said no. I mean, he didn't say which level. I don't care what level we're talking about, John. There's nothing comparable to it. But this is part of the Trump obsession. He wants, and these guys know this, and Marco knows it. Anytime you can be mentioned in the same sentence with President Kennedy, his heart swells. He believes he's in the status of the greatest president.
It's an interesting thing that he said there at the end. Was the moon landing connection to connect it back to President Kennedy? Is Trump really so much money to be like Kennedy? He put his name on the Kennedy Center, right? And now he's sulking and furious and angry because his name was taken off the Kennedy Center. He wants to be seen as having done great things. But putting somebody on the moon is not the same as having two guys tear each other's faces off on the White House lawn, okay? And have corporations make tons of money. Like, all Marco Rubio needed to say was, it was a fun event, why don't you all cool down, have some fun, we're trying to lighten things up. But I mean, whatever, it would have still been bullshit. But he can't say that because he knows that Donald Trump thinks that he's done something groundbreaking by having two guys rip each other's faces off under a giant cage on the White House lawn. Truly pathetic. Now, did Trump's own base want to see the UFC fight? Because here's the deal. A lot of this was political. Trump won the election by pandering to young men. Trump won the election by just 1.4%. He managed to, con some young men through the, bro podcasts to vote for him. They thought he was cool. They thought he was funny. They thought, more seriously, the political ideas they had was he was going to
In 1,000 feet, turn left onto New York 386 North Elm Grove Road.
Yeah, they also will probably.
Soon the school buses garages will be closed for the summer.
In the MAGA base, right? So you think they, you know, love the UFC.
And they will be open in
At the light,
September.
turn left onto New York 386 North Elm Grove Road.
They're the first, you know, they're the last in, right? It's a young man and the first out in terms of what we're seeing with the polling. They're over him completely. He thought this would maybe bring him back, but Harry Enton at CNN points out how much of a percentage of the country actually supported having these fights on the White House lawn.
Let's just say this much. They do not like it. They don't like it. I like you a lot, but Americans don't find this thing to be appropriate. Take it here. Take a look here. UFC White House fights are appropriate. Just 16%. Just 16% overall. And among Republicans, even among Republicans, you know, the diehard base Republican Party with Trump through thick and thin, just 31% of Republicans. His approval rating amongst Republicans overall is, you know, usually hovers a little bit north of 80%. So we're talking 50 points lower here. You know, this overall, you know, being 16%, you know, what is it, like 28% of Americans, you know, believe in telepathy? So this is even below that. Does this fall into a broader pattern of the White House voters' minds? Yeah, I think this is the big problem here, Omar, which is, you know, Americans just don't think that Donald Trump and this White House is in touch with them because, you know, they put on stuff like that Americans don't.